19.
Hello and welcome to Slash Dupe, the mysterious movie pitching podcast with a twist. Each member of today's podcast has been given the same movie or TV title, some time to prepare, and has come to the table to pitch their own unique take on that title. And as always, I'm joined by my Slash Dupe regulars and co-hosts Dan and Ryan. But one of them is the Dupe, and after the break we'll be hearing a very special pitch from the Dupe. The Dupe is the one person at the table who has not been given the title in advance, and they will have to improvise their idea at the end of the show following everybody else's.
Sean, how you going?
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah.
Good. So what is the Slash Dupe?
Listen, I'm glad you asked. Not a question I would have ever expected you to ask, Nick, but appreciate that.
Never gets old.
A Slash Dupe is a film in the very early stages of post-production. So it's a rough, unfinished version that functions as the building blocks of what a film can become. So that's what we deliver on Slash Dupe, just the sort of functional building blocks of a film. Interestingly, that Antipodean voice you heard is our guest today, Nick. Nick, how are you doing? How confident are you with your idea for Slash Dupe today?
Yeah, I've got a few ideas, a little bit flippant, I've got a couple of ideas, and I'm interested to hear what you think of them, and other ideas as well.
Is there one that you think, do you know what, if I had to hang my hat on one of the two ideas, I know which one it is, or are they both equal in your mind at the moment?
Look, one is, I'm going into it. So one is...
Oh, not yet, but I just want to tease people. I just want to know.
Right. No, one's very flippant, and one is kind of interesting. Yeah, I think I'd push towards the second one for me.
Okay. All right. Well, that'd be fun. You can let us know which one when we get into it. Before that, how's everybody else doing? Dan, Ryan, how you doing?
Getting attacked by hay fever. I've had you hear me sniffling on this recording, either if you don't hear me, that's because Dan's worked his magic and gated it out, but yeah, it's not great being attacked by that, but I will endeavour on. Excited to get the final heat of Slash Dupe underway. This is episode 19. We are in the closing quarter of our season 1, so very excited to see that come through.
How many are in season 1?
So it's 24 in total, 24 episodes, and then 6 heats, adjudicated heats, where we choose a winner from each 6. And those winners will go down to the final, the grand final. And in the grand final, we eliminate all but one, which apparently...
We're supposed to be.
Which was a great idea when we started this a couple of years ago. But we've got to make it into a fully fledged trailer, the final winner.
Oh, wow.
Which could be yours, Nick.
It could be.
So we just had Mole win by Andrew Fernandez, which has joined the Hall of Fame of Fence from Dan, and This Train Terminates from Becky Pantling. So those are the 3 that have gone through the heat so far.
Yeah, we had Tom Daniels, our sort of our resident
money
executive
man.
Producer and money man, finance man, and he looked at them from a financial aspect, but his heart won out in the end, didn't he? And he picked sort of a coming of age Spanish. You're a big Spanish movie fan, aren't you? Spanish language movie fan, Nick. So he picked Mole.
Yeah, Moldovar, massive fan actually.
Yeah. He picked Mole, and it's sort of a personal Spanish sort of personal adventure movie, isn't it? So that's very exciting. That's in the previous episode. So yes, I'm your peerless moderator so far. No one else. I'm without peer because no one else has done it yet. Yes, Dan was right. At the end of the episode, I'll be selecting a winner to go through to the next heat, which will be in 6 episodes' time. So I think I'm about ready to reveal the title for today's Slash Dupe. Dan, you are the Dupe today, taking over from Ryan's regular mantle as the Dupe.
Thank you.
So Ryan will hopefully have. I think you won, or you were close to winning last time. You had a planned idea, weren't you, Ryan? What happened last time Dan was the Dupe?
No, it was my idea got taken out by the Dupe, which normally doesn't happen. Normally, because I'm the Dupe, my ideas don't get picked. But because it was a Dupe, that happened. So, but I have come fully fledged with an idea for today's title, and
that's very exciting.
Wasn't it Mole's episode where I was the dupe anyway?
Yeah.
So it was the heat winner that won. So
but there was another time before that as well.
Yeah.
So I've fully fledged. As we know in this podcast, I'm a single alone man, so I don't have any wives or partners to ask an idea for 10 minutes before the recording.
I was going to say, so how did you come up with your idea then?
Alone in a room with nobody else with me. So I've come fully fledged with an idea, so I'm excited about this one. And
all right, we'll
see.
I think because Nick almost had a bit of a false start when I gave him the impression that he would be going, I think he's ready to go already. So I'm going to reveal that today's Slash Dupe title is Peloton. So that is Peloton, which traditionally you may know as being the Nick. You're a cyclist, so I may get some of this wrong, but it's the front block of cyclists on during a race, and they sort of switch paths. They sort of rotate so that they can stay ahead of the rest of the pack using drafting and other.
Yeah. Literally, they draft. So they take it in turns to share the load and reduce their resistance. A bit of science there, Sean. But,
yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, so Peloton. But apparently, I looked this up. Peloton actually means ball in French. So, or bull. Bull means ball as well. But Peloton apparently the literal translation means ball. Apparently, so I don't know how that then translates into the front. The cycling.
So does that feature into your pitches, Nick?
It does actually. So my first pitch is not so much for a TV series or even for a movie at all. Actually, I was just thinking as a corporate professional development type of situation where you could have cliches like sharing the load, to represent the Peloton, and this idea that it could actually be a corporate professional development that could be sold to the folk in at Barclays in Canary Wharf. So proactive communication is another cliche we could come up with, or sharing the load. This idea that we're in this together, competing against the opposition, so to speak, and this idea of encouraging and recognising each other's hard work, and to have some sort of professional development to.
Do you know what, Nick? I
work. Are you
pitching
a new company that you're trying to start, Nick? I'm feeling like this is you exposing your next venture.
I work in the corporate world, right? I'm a dirty corpo, but I could, as a project manager as well. I work under the Agile Banner framework and the Scrum and all that sort of stuff. Genuinely, like, you could sell this if you had the right snake oil salesman. You could sell like training to the Peloton
training, where like one person works really hard, then they drop back. Is that what you're saying, Nick?
Because we use the bench analogy. Because we use the bench, right? If you haven't got any work, you're on the bench. Like the sports term. So if you're in the Peloton, if you're at the back of the Peloton, you're supporting, and someone else doing like a bigger piece of development while you're building all their backlog for them and helping them, and then you switch them out. This is genuinely, I might steal some of this from my
Yeah. Well, that was the idea of sharing the load, and this idea that you're reducing, if you're all working together, you're reducing the energy for each other. This idea of the air resistance being reduced with the idea of the Peloton. I should specify, it was an idea. I never suggested it was a good idea. I just said I put out
or even a film idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Or even a film idea. Yeah.
I want to just let everyone know. I'm going to grass you up here, Nick. I just want to let everyone know that Nick left all of his brainstorming and notes for today's episode at work. So this is why we're getting what is essentially a business plan. I'm on board.
But that was the first idea, and again, it was by no means a good idea. A better idea, I think, which could either be a TV series or a film, was actually a cycle race from one end of Europe to the other. So it could be Western Europe to Eastern Europe. it could be a teens mini-series where the groups, the cyclist groups that are competing against each other, could be your cliche groups like the nerds versus the jocks versus the I mean, you could bring everything here.
The stoners.
Yeah.
Versus the stoners, yeah.
The stoners, yeah, the stoners could be in there. Could be the religious zealots as well. You could have, yeah. So, and they're all in, they're cycling teams, and they have to cycle from one end of Europe to the other without any support. And the idea of race around the world, or there's some of the BBC kind of adventure kind of programs where you're kind of given a bit of money and you've got to travel from one end of America to the other kind of thing. But the idea there would be that they're competing against each other. It could be like
what are they going to win? What do they win? What's the prize?
Well, I think it's got to be money. It's got to be some sort of cash prize that they're going for, and they can kind of sabotage each other. In this process of getting from one end of Europe to the other. I mean, cheating is encouraged, so it could be bikes that have motors in them, there's different aspects. They just have to be on a bike of some sort. One end of Europe to the other. It's got.
Well, I just wanted to throw in that they did a really terrible remake of this film, but the original was quite good. But I cannot remember the name of it. I wonder if you guys can. And it's like, it's like Cannonball Run, but they did another one. Oh, I think that's probably a better example than I'm going to give. So but I was going to do the one with Rowan Atkinson and Seth Green and stuff in it. Remember they did
Race.
Rat Race. Yeah,
that was for the money though, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I like sort of Cannonball Run meets Wacky Races, but on bikes is genuinely something that I would watch. I would actually like that.
Yeah, and it's got to be set in Europe because Europe's where all the bike races are. The theme it could be a real cliche teen type miniseries where your classic nerds and you're kind of rooting for the underdog, the stoners or the nerds end up winning, or they kind of help each other out and for the greater good, which would come into the theme of Peloton and this idea of supporting each other.
So what would that's good. What would the greater good be? That's what I'm interested in. In this scenario, what is the greater good? I don't know.
Well,
climate change, because they're on bikes. They're sort of doing something good. There's got to be something. I feel like if you're going to make it now, someone would try and put climate change in there, wouldn't they, or something like that?
I think it's about community. If we want to delve into the depth of it, it could be about community and supporting each other, and that's the focus. You could have the juxtaposition of the nerds versus the jocks, and you could have the jocks losing out. So that we are rooting for the underdog, and but some sort of cash prize, and a bit of comedy in there with sabotaging each other, and likes a bit of drama.
Yeah, I like it.
My question is, what age sort of range are you pitching this show at? Is it young teens? Is it young kids?
Is it like Wacky Races or Herbie, the Herbie films?
Yeah.
It could be
that kind of level.
Either or, I think.
Because, for example, I watched on Netflix. I watched the Fast and Furious Spy Races, which is an animated series. It's a spin-off set in the world of 4 kids that drive $1 million cars that are just ridiculous, and they become spies. But in one of the seasons of that, they have this sort of a Cannonball Run sort of style season. So but the thing is, it is aimed at kids, but I loved it. I was just this is perfect to put on in the background while I play stuff on my Switch. And it was
I sort of feel like it might be better as a sort of the Eurovision movie or something that recently came out on Netflix. It's sort of for adults, but because it would spoof the sort of races and the sort of events that adults would watch. They would follow the Tour de France and other things like that. I don't know. I feel like you could make something that adults would enjoy. Bring back the Cannonball Run. Bring back these films, but put them on bikes. Essentially.
Yeah. It could be. It could be for adults, and it could be very Europe based, where the UK is the bad.
That's what I was thinking because of Brexit. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that, Nick. Because, I'm like, the villain should be Brits, right? Definitely.
Yeah. So the villains could be the Brits, and they're quite passionate about their cycling. Everyone in the EU and the Dutch in particular, actually, and the French love their cycling. So. Yeah.
So is there home field advantage for certain teams? So if you're going across Europe, for example, and I assume it would be like teams from each country, almost like a World Cup of cycling, basically. Is there some? I assume they're not just going one end to the other, one straight thing. It's like checkpointed. It's sort of like a rally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and actually, I was thinking it could be, hence the adventure part of it. It could be that it starts in Istanbul. Is it the geographical? Is that where it kind of geographically becomes Europe to Asia? It could actually start in Istanbul and go all the way to Sevilla in Spain, and it could be a fair old adventure, like a proper.
So would they have to, like, for example, I don't know, in Istanbul, I don't know much about the geography because I've never been, but would they have to sort of almost change the wheels from road? Would they have like almost like a Paris-Dakar section where they go off on into the sort of the dunes and things? I don't know. Would they change to sort of tyres that are better on that sort of ground? I mean, is that too crazy though? Are we going like all roads, or do we want to cross different sort of, I don't know, geographies?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think that's where it could be a TV series where it's actually an adventure where you're in different countries and actually you're exploring, all these different countries as you're watching it, which is what everyone does when they watch the Tour de France. Or
it's true.
It's just an advertisement for the country. It could be, or Yeah.
Well, how about different, like, so each episode's set in a different country as they travel, and then each episode has a different sort of narrator and TV commentator, so based on that country. So however the French represent these things, you have two French actors doing the commentary and commenting on the races, and you see it from a French perspective, and then you see it later, it's a Turkish perspective. So you go through the different perspectives. I don't know. You could do something like that.
That reminds me of Ultimate Beastmaster, where they have all the different nationalities commentating on what's going on.
Okay.
And then you build up fun rivalries between commentators. So it becomes about their story as well, which would be quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm on board with this. So, I mean,
the start and end could be the checkpoint in that country, or the border of that country. So.
I like it. So what other locations along the way do you, because I know you're a seasoned traveller, so where along that route that you mentioned to us, where are the big, so that we can visualise them, where are the big stop-offs, or where are the big
probably start in Turkey and then work your way through Macedonia, and then perhaps further into Eastern Europe, and then kind of through to Germany and the Netherlands and so on and so forth, and maybe all the way down to Spain, to Seville. Yeah, so
is it too lofty to think you could also, in this Wacky Races Cannonball Run type thing on bikes, that you could still learn a little bit about, like the history of each country as you're in there?
I think that's the point of it. It's like, we've become particularly nationalistic of recent, isn't it? Haven't we? So I think, and that would be the nice part of it, that actually towards the end of the race, maybe the teams could switch sides, or they could join each other's sides or whatever, and it's more of a collective trying to get to the finish line.
Third time in the series I've mentioned this, but Carmen Sandiego does that.
I literally said Carmen Sandiego earlier.
Yeah, it educates kids about the areas that they're in. So you could have, as they drive through, they're cycling through one of the countries, it could be one of their national celebrations or something. Do you know what I mean? To learn a little bit more about what's going on.
So, okay, I've really only got two questions, but I'm happy if you've got more, Nick, because I feel like you've got lots of little nuggets. So please give us more if you've got it on this idea. I don't know what actors we want to be rooting for in this thing, and I don't know what tricks and gadgets they're going to have on their bikes. I don't know which one of those two you have in your mind, and which one of the two the other guys can help me with.
Well, I think there's got to be a villain or a villain team.
They're the Brits, aren't they? They have to be.
Yeah, they have to be the Brits, I think, actually.
But what kind of Brits are they going to be?
They don't want to play. They don't want to play with anyone else. They're just like, everyone else is like getting along, and the Brits are like, we're Britain. Britain.
They have on their t-shirts like "No man is an island except for Britain," or something like that. Really nasty slogans.
Love it.
I thought in my head they're all dressed, and I know you play cricket, Nick, but they're all almost dressed in cricket whites. That's like their sort of their uniform is like that. It's like almost in like the cycling. If you smash like cycling wicking wear with cricket. Design. That's basically what they wear.
And then they've
all got 3 lions on the handlebar. Yeah, like the Jaguars. It's like 3 lions.
I think stereotyping should be encouraged.
Yes, I think so too. You need broad strokes, don't you, when you deal with this? Yeah.
All the French have got a little basket on the front of their bikes.
Literally. And I think the Dutch all have to be tall and But
they get the best peloton because they've got the most amount of drafting, because they're so tall.
And it could have an aspect of National Lampoons to it as well. That, as you're traveling through the countries,
and I think that, like you said,
obviously
like
everybody's fine. Like they get horrifically injured by the traps and the things on the bikes,
but they're all.
And then but everyone's fine. They've just got like a comedy plaster on them. On like a scratch or that bump on their head.
I imagine it's a little bit like that Eurovision thing on Netflix. Like it's like it lampoons different sort of cultures and races and stuff, but in a really jocular sort of loving way. And I think that's so. Yeah,
done with a creative team of all nationalities, so that it's fed in correctly. Do you know what I mean? Much like Ubisoft at the beginning of every.
This is all made by a team of people with multiple faiths and disciplines, and etc. etc. Yeah.
So I hate to say it, but I'm glad this didn't go into the last heat because Tom would not have bought this one. Like multiple country location shots.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, as the money man, he would have shut this down.
And that would cost too much money. What's the soundtrack?
Mm-hmm. Oh, good question.
What's the music to this? Because this is pumping. This one, surely.
Oh gosh.
Is it like
I would say
music? Is it like popular music from countries, or is it a soundtrack?
I know what it couldn't be. It couldn't be like the Motorcycle Diaries music with the panpipes and the guitars.
Yeah,
that's too good. That's too good for this movie, is what you're saying. Yeah.
It just wouldn't fit.
So here's my suggestion. It's like a Eurobeat version of a very stereotypical song or musical instrument from that area, so that the soundtrack can be sold to, first of all, like A, Peloton, and B, because that's your marketing, right? But can be sold to like as a workout, so you can work out to the songs, and they have that fast like Eurobeat, like high energy that you do in a spin class.
That's sort of like the spin class element is kind of good.
Yeah. I mean,
what's the BPM or RPM for Peloton?
160. No, 160 plus maybe.
It's got to be something like that. So like all the beats are going to be like.
Yeah. I mean, it could be something from Eurovision. It could literally have some sort of cheesy Eurovision.
Maybe it should have a Eurovision winners from each country, like that does this, the soundtrack to each one.
We are so. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Exactly what I was going to suggest.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Because it's sort of a wonderful riff off of what each country has to give in a particular, forum.
And if the financial advisor is upset with Turkey, we can just shorten the countries. We could just make it. I think it could be educational, learning about each other's countries. I think it's got legs. I think it could be a bit of fun, and it could have a hidden meeting where the bad guys, who the UK, everyone's kind of brought together at the end. So we're kind of anti-nationalism, and they kind of swap teams by the end, and whoever wins shares out the money with the other teams.
Love it.
It's got to have a heartfelt, good meaning to it.
Yeah. So that was Peloton by Nick. I'm not talking about his corporate development program pitch, obviously. I'm talking about the wonderful film idea he supplied us with. I'm looking forward to yours, Ryan. Your idea for Peloton, please.
Thank you. So, I haven't gone for the multiple ideas. I thought I'd hone down on the one that I really love. And as per usual, I'm going to play with the title. So, pelo is hair in Spanish. And ton is your in French. So, my idea is let's flash forward to an alternate reality in the future that has some kind of takes some of the ideals, like how people like Western hippies love a star sign and a moon sign, and I can't date a Scorpio because you're too fiery. This is what they all say to me anyway. And in Asians it's blood types, right? But in this flash forward alternate reality, hair is the important thing, right? And the more luscious and beautiful and richly coloured your hair is, the bigger you are in society and the more desirable you are. And the way that you would send your love to people, which is what people used to do. They used to take locks of their hair, and in Roman tradition, you would give it as a sign of love or devotion. You'd give a lock of hair, and I know some people still keep babies' hairs and whatever else, and so this is the way that people devote themselves to one another. And so we open on Old Gay Paris at this massive, beautiful, crazy ball that's been going on. It's all these really beautiful people with wonderful dresses and hairs all swanning around. Sort of Timothy Chalamet looking guy, presents this lock of his hair and this beautiful diamond sort of necklace, like locket thing, to another beautiful woman as like the sign of his love. And you see all these, almost like a debutante's ball, right? They're all sort of rich people trying to like pairing off for the good families. And there's people, it's like hair transplants, and hair is the new commodity. It's like the new plastic surgery, right? You're getting hair transplants to change your hair color or making sure it's thicker. However, though, people who are bald, it's still a sign of status because you keep a lock of your old luscious hair preserved in your lock, because you can't change your genes. You still, no matter what it is. And it sort of reminds me, there was a guy in South Korea that sued his wife because he had ugly children because she had loads of plastic surgery done.
Yes, he thought she was beautiful, but then when they had their children, they were hideous.
Yeah, so you can't change that hair color. You can't change that. So even if you're bald, you still keep a lock of it because you still could have children with beautiful.
So what about hair dyeing and stuff? Like, how does that work in this world? Like, what happens when someone changes their hair color?
It is. I do have that written somewhere. That comes in later. Okay. All right, comes in later.
But is hair? Is it about strength, or is it about
both? Strength, color. Like, it's the sort
power?
of the
power, or you're more powerful if you've got hair, or
like the rich people all have really, really beautiful hair and like really voluminous and sleek and
quite biblical, isn't it? Samson and his hair.
And those sort of Renaissance wigs and stuff, isn't it? Like that sort of sign of wealth.
So we're going through this ball, and then you see in the kitchen spy hole, there's a kid sneering. He's sneering at the back, and this is our boy Chauveau, played by Cameron Moynihan. And he's there.
Refresh me what Cameron Moynihan's.
Cameron Moynihan. He was in the Star Wars game, not Force Awakens. What was it called again?
Oh, the latest one.
The latest one. Yeah, him, and he was in Gotham as the Joker. Okay. As the kid Joker. So he's washing dishes in the back, and you see the head chef having an argument in French, and then he slaps this kid upside of the head, and his hat falls off. And oh no, just like Cameron Moynihan, he's a ginger. Right?
This is a bad thing, is it?
And everybody laughs at him because he's got his horrible looking ginger hair.
Now, I have to say, we've got someone with fantastic Irish genes in this group, Nick. And he has been known under certain lighting conditions to have slightly ginger hair.
So, and this is where, I heard, and I don't know how true this is, but the redhead recessive gene is apparently dying out. Maybe one of those meme things that I sort of see quite a lot. I don't know how true it is, but this is like one of those things,
you know. Genetics, Nick, to a degree. What is that? How does that work? Because I've heard that as well.
Someone who's got freckles tends to have like fair hair. Obviously, it's not that surprising, but actually, redhead was the Neanderthals had ginger hair. So maybe it's in a throwback to the Neanderthals.
I like that. That's got to factor into this idea, right?
You guys is like you're just padding my pockets already. All right. so then obviously they're all laughing. He puts his hat on, and then the pastry chef goes, tells this guy to come outside, which is I feel like the pastry chef is big bald guy. He's got to be played by Ken. Is it Davintian he was Asmat in Borat. His like big, he's like the big Armenian guy.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And they go outside and they're having a vape outside of this house because I read an article the other day where they're trying to tone down the amount of tobacco smoking in French cinema. So, they have a vape outside. And he's like, this is where you get all your expose, where they talk about how he found this kid in the street and he raised him and, he's trying to get him to be his own. And, this kid's like, Cameron Monaghan's like, I want to find my mum and just ask her, like, why she gave me this hair and why she left me and all this stuff. And the guy's like, hey, maybe you can be bald like me. And then sort of...
Hang on, I thought it was French.
Maybe you can be bald like me. And so he, the end of the day, and he goes back to his little ramshackle apartment, which for some reason will just overlook the the Eiffel Tower because they always do.
Or something.
Yeah, just even though it's like this tiny little room, isn't it? It's a tiny horrible room, but he opens up his windows and he's got the most beautiful view. And he goes to like shave off his ginger hair, and he can't do it. He can't bring himself to it. But you still see he has to go through the rigmarole of like shaving his face, like shaving all of his skin, like his body hair as well, so none of the fair hair like gets seen, or and he tries to keep as much of it. He's got one of those like nice short like beret cuts, so it can't. So when you saw him earlier with the hat on, you didn't see it. And so this is all the sort of learning about him. So the next day he's like working in another kitchen and another ball, another big debutante's ball or whatever, and then we see like one of those crystal vials. It's like a floor shot, and the crystal vial drops and rolls under a table, and then later on he's like sweeping everything up, and he goes under the table and he sees a locket, and this locket's got the most beautiful ginger hair in it, and so he's like, oh my god, there's another one, and it's like, I've got to find out who this person is, and he like has to go and find out where all like where the people came from, and they all came from like really far away, like they're south of France probably, and then like somewhere, which is ironic because it's more sunny, isn't it? We probably find less fair hair and skinned people, but so he like takes a scooter or a train or however his bike with a bicycle on it in a peloton. And a
real Cinderella. It's a bit of a Cinderella story. He's got the glass slipper. He's got to find the
he's got the glass vial of the ginger hair, and he'll like maybe if he takes he'll take one of those like classic freight trains like on the way down, and he'll meet like a group of nomads who've all got like dreads, but it's the fact that like it takes a long time to dread hair, and so like people are like, and they take a lot of care of it, and they're sort of like they're like the gypsies that take him in, that sort of like that. There's that moment in those stories where
they're sort of almost like
the alternative,
wise and sort of they're sort of knowledgeable about the world.
They're within their own communes,
sort of philosophical and because it takes a long time to dread. So while they're dreading, they can tell stories about the world to each other and understand the world more. It's very different to the people who are having their hair done.
Exactly, where it's sort of like like I don't like talking to my barbers when I would get my hair cut. So but some people, it is quite a big thing. Some people, but yeah, you're right.
That's all I do when I get my hair cut. Just talk to George. I think barbers are pretty much psychologists, really, that get paid to cut hair. In a lot of ways.
So I'd be listen. That has to be featured in the film, though, doesn't it? Because that's a huge deal. If hair becomes this indicator, then barbers and barbershop.
It's like this thing, but because of the rich, because you're only seeing the rich, right? So he's only ever seen it from this thing where they don't talk. Like it's like it gets done, and you don't. It's like almost like not talking to the help, right? It's like this is. Just you do my hair, you make it look beautiful and whatever. But he repays them, like because he's been working in the kitchens, he chefs up a couple of things, with what he's got, and they sort of repay him with information that there was people like in the south where he's sort of seen them. So he carries on and he tries to get into the party, shows them the lock of hair in the crystal, and they like laugh him all away and everything like that. And down on his luck, he goes to work. He just has to find some work, and he goes start working at an apple orchard. It'll come relevant in a second.
I should hope
South of France. South of France.
Dropped it with such heaviness. It has to be.
Yeah. So,
is that not normal, Nick, to South of France? I guess it would be a vineyard,
I would have said maybe the West Country in the UK or...
No. There's a beautiful apple orchard in the south of France.
Right?
Okay.
All right.
And... So he's working there, and he's working in the thing, and then a gust of wind blows, and it blows his hat off, and the grandmother of the orchard sees his hair and beckons him to come over, and she says to him, tells him the story of this most beautiful woman with the most beautiful ginger hair she's ever seen in her entire life, and he says, I'll only tell you the rest of the story if you work here for 3 months and you don't shave anything. Okay. So he's like, okay, fair enough. So he works there.
Says, indicating his
anything.
Pubes. And she's like, yes.
And then, so he works there for 3 months, and obviously he's a quick grower because he's been shaving the entire time, a lot. So in 3 months he grows like a big old scruffy ginger beard, and his hair's all a mess, and it's all like really dark and everything like that. And then after the 3 months, the grandmother reveals that the reason why she's got all the money and she's rich, she used to make shampoos for all the rich people. That's what her time was. But the secret to making all of these is apple cider vinegar. And the reason I know this is because I watched a YouTube video of like a guy who had dreads. He didn't wash them for years, and to wash them naturally, he used apple cider vinegar to get all of the gunk out of them.
Right.
And it left his hair like really, like literally there was just like bowls and bowls of like black water, and they used the apple cider vinegar to get all of the dirt out of it, and it made it like really like clean and lovely. So she then gets the... they give him the old glow up, right? They trim up of the beard, they wash his hair with the apple cider vinegar and the water, and they get it all like perfect. And she tells the story about how there was this really beautiful couple, really rich, like obviously claimed to the throne of France or something like that, probably. And she's telling him the story while she's washing his hair, how they thought, they did the hair ceremony and they fell in love, but they didn't realize that the hair gene skipped a generation, so that when this kid was born, he was ginger. So they cast him away because they couldn't be seen having.
Sent him to Paris.
Sent him to Paris. Yeah, cast him away, and that's how our old. That's how our old man.
What is the time period of this film?
I said alternate reality. So people are still putting babies in baskets and sending them down.
Do you know what,
rivers,
Rye? I was thinking about this actually, and you're right, Nick. I think you need to set it in this like I keep getting Lemony Snicket's vibes, the Netflix show.
Yeah, it is that sort of
so you want to sort of
opulence.
Yeah, you want to say it's our world, but it's not our world. So when it says France and Spain, which I think you should have that connection between France and Spain based on the Opello and the Tom.
Well, it's the oranges Seville oranges, ginger, orange hair.
I like that. Yeah. But I definitely think it should be like this sort of alternative world to ours. Yeah. So like maybe even
it's sort of like
the
really decadent, but they haven't got Ferraris. Do you know what I mean? They've still got they've just got honk honk cars. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Like sort of like very Victorian punk style.
You've almost replicated one famous ginger's life. Vincent van Gogh, he spent a lot of time in the south of France. He was a famous ginger, but he went a bit crazy in the south of France.
These are all the stories that he's being told while she's putting the apple cider vinegar in his hair, and then when they wash it out, he's just got like the most beautiful they all laughed at his ginger hair, but now it's cleaned it. It's like that really like lovely auburn, and gets taken, and she takes him because she's a rich old woman. She takes him to the ball, and he declares, he's stands on the table and he's like, I need to know who's owns this lock of hair, and then it's the woman steps forward, basically, right? But she's got a big old wig on, and she takes it off, and she's got her lovely, beautiful ginger hair, and it's his mother that he finally gets reunited with, and then she tells him that he can. That who he is and how he's got stick claim to the throne and probably owns Paris at the end of it.
So wait, where did this all... Did I just miss... Was it everybody else that also missed all the stuff about the throne and all this about redheads and the throne? Or was it
no, because it was the old woman washing his hair. She was saying that there was a couple, a beautiful couple that had
That's
a
why
child.
The redheads have been oppressed or suppressed because
it skipped the recessive gene skipped the generations, and neither of those, but the generation before were old gingers, so it skipped it.
Okay.
And then and this is why this kid's ginger, old Cameron Moynihan.
I like it.
So
I think you need to push. I think you need to push sort of the beauty, splendor, and wonder of ginger hair as well. I think.
Well, this is where you get your marketing tie-ins with hair dye companies, don't you? Right? You don't, and it's not just ginger. It's whatever color. Even if you're black haired, but it's really rich. It's not to do with the lighter the color of your hair, the better off you are. It's to do with the richness and the texture and the volume of the hair is what makes it. Is what is your status in society.
Go on, Nick.
I was going to say, it could be the odd one out, like the minority in the monoculture kind of, which I think would be a hard sell for gingers, really. But I can see the. I think historically, I like the historical aspect to the film, and I like the travel
about how the Neanderthals were gingers, as you said.
So not that far back.
They were the true rightful owners of the world.
Well, I sort of like that. There's something magical that comes out of being a redhead or whatever, auburn, strawberry blonde, and all that sort of stuff. Because definitely there's something positive out of it.
They're quite often in fantasy the sort of quite powerful witches, aren't they? Like the redheads, they're sort of seen as to have a mystical
See, this is my point.
power.
I think that when you're younger, you'll pick on someone for anything, right? So it's easy to pick on something. Of
course.
And we're all adults now. We've grown. We've learnt sort of how children operate, and we want to make something that doesn't other or make ginger people feel awkward in any way, but celebrates them. I think that's the key, isn't it?
That's why he's the king.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it's the king of all hairs, because when he steps into that party and it's the most beautiful hair anyone's ever seen, because they haven't seen it for thousands of years.
Yeah, so the only reason why people don't like it initially is because there's an evil person on the throne who has outlawed and said, no red hair, this is bad.
Yeah.
But actually you find out the truth is that it's good, and there's just a bad guy that's been oppressing it. I think you sort of just need that.
Maybe it's because his mother wouldn't go out with him that he decided to...
That's true.
His own mother wouldn't go.
Timothy, no, Cameron Moynihan.
Chivou's
mother.
Yeah.
Or grandmother, or something like that, or grandfather. There was a queen that declared all redheads unsavoury because she was turned down, or he was turned down. They were turned down by a person.
I think if we bring on in this sort of this magical fantasy aspect
in the Henry VIII style,
that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
I didn't get what I wanted. So I'm going to rewrite history.
Yeah.
Fuck you all.
Yeah.
And then obviously the sequel is like the land of the gingers, where he like, you know, in the middle of the Congo where they speak French, isn't it? And then he finds like, goes on the ginger adventure. Oh, Nick, he finds the original. He finds like a Neanderthal, like the frozen in time, like a group of them frozen in time.
Yeah,
he does all their hair with the apple cider vinegar. Yeah, love it.
The science might have to come in here to say the. I teach science, by the way, Dan. Sorry, might have to explain that the gingers or the fair skin like myself, they were all from Northern Europe because it's to do with UV light. So and how much UV light you can absorb,
melanin,
turn into vitamin D. So, but so I think the land of the gingers is probably more likely to be somewhere further north. But
sort of like the equivalent of the Bermuda Triangle, but for gingers.
It could be.
Or what's the other one? Well, Shambhala, but for gingers.
Yeah. Well, allegedly the Canary Islands, the original inhabitants were all fair-skinned gingers as well. So
there you go. That's where we're going for number for.
That's what you tease in the post-credit sequence.
Peloton, Dupe.
Right. So Tom would like this because it has a sequel and it has tie-ins with. I wonder what our next adjudicator would think. But yes, Tom would have appreciated the tie-in with hair products. There's the business aspect. But who knows?
And the lockets, like the lockets for the hair.
Clever, yeah. They're charms that you can sell and people can put lockets for their own hair in there. And it's like, promote. It doesn't matter what your hair is, you're beautiful and wonderful. That's obviously the point of the thing. All right. I think, but I wonder what our adjudicator will think in 6 episodes' time. Let's...
Well, I mean, I was really taken with this idea of a beautiful cross-country adventure, which I know is what won the last one. But still, this I love this idea of the opulence, the rising from nothing to become something, the taking in advice from wiser people or nomads and learning that, the hair underneath, once uncovered with natural products, is the most beautiful thing that we can all possess. So
that was a robust idea from you, Ryan. I enjoy hearing you when you've got some time to plan. It's very detailed. It's been a while since we've had a real sort of blow by blow, so I really appreciate that. Thank you. That was your idea for Peloton. At the end of this episode, Dan, and then perhaps even this season, please, for the love of God, remind me what happens. I need to know.
Well, as I explained to Nick earlier, you're going to choose a winner at the end of this episode, and then that means there'll be 6 winners at the end of this section, this quarter, which we'll put into a heat, and that will be adjudicated by a special guest. Our 3 special guests so far have been extraordinary, and they've the adjudicator episodes have been a lot of fun and very, very different, which I've enjoyed. And at each adjudicator, they will choose 1 winner. That will give us 4 winners, and then we're going to put 2 wild cards in that you, the listener, will be able to vote on. And maybe we'll choose one.
Yeah, I think one of ours that we think really we would have loved to have gone through, and one that anyone who's listening who goes, do you know what, Sean was really out of line with that decision. He should have gone with this one instead. We will take that under advisement, and if they're strong enough,
or maybe one that was robbed at the adjudicators round.
Yeah.
Well, that'll give us 6 in total. Right? I'm not saying me. I'm just saying another one that got robbed.
That's true.
And then we'll put those 6 into a super duper final, a grand final.
Who are we going to get
season
for that?
1.
Tom Cruise, Danny Boyle.
Well, yeah, no, I thought maybe Danny Boyle. Yeah, maybe try and get makes sense. Susan Boyle.
Yeah.
And then they will decide.
Ooh.
That's why it's got to be someone really good, isn't it? They will decide the grand winner of season 1, and we will make that into a trailer.
Yeah.
Somehow, we didn't say it was going to be good, but we said we'd make it into a trailer. And that's the end of season 1, which is coming a lot quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for that, Dan. And now I'm looking forward to. I'm always excited when we change up the dupe. I'm hoping that some guests will come on and be dupes if they're excited, sort of excited about the prospect.
Yeah.
I know that I would be terrible. I like a little bit of planning time, but I always value a change up, and it's as good as a rest, a change. I'm excited to hear your dupe idea for Peloton.
Okay, so a little bit like Ryan's, Peloton is French for platoon, or a set of squads. So I've gone down that road, and so I'm thinking it's a French animation, and it follows the life of a few squads of pixies, kind of children pixies, as they have to deal with the incursion of a nastier side of things, maybe some gnomes or a sort of a more French fairy tale kind of baddie, but of that scale, and it's going to end up having like a Watership Down kind of feel. Like it's going to be one that you show your kids and then instantly regret having shown your kids because it's gone for years. And I've been playing with my little boy. Been playing Unravel 2, and I really like the idea of this.
Great game.
It's a great game, and it's a beautiful game as well. And I really like the idea of maybe these pixies' lives being shadowed in the background with animation, maybe depicting the Second World War or the First World War, in fact. Like so things that the soldiers in the background are echoes of what the pixies are. Because as we're playing Unravel 2, I know it might not be the story because I haven't finished it yet.
There is a story in the background.
There's a story of two kids running in the background, and it feels to me like they're their lost souls. That I don't think they are in the end, but it feels like that. So maybe these pixies are sort of the childlike souls of these soldiers dying or being destroyed as time goes by. So these pixies will bite the dust as we go through. But the French have got quite a strong sort of animation history. I think they're probably some of the first animators as well.
Their hand animated stuff's fantastic as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And so there's like, I remember, but this might be showing my age, there was a series called The Mysterious Cities of Gold. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember it. Yeah, and I remember it being.
Was it on a BBC or?
Yeah, I think it might. I can't remember, but it was like early 80s for sure. And it was about. I think it was about this kid who like could control the sun or something. Anyways, looking for his lost father. So there's quite a lot of other really cool. Friend, like the Little Prince we watched recently with my little boy again, and there's Persepolis, which is based on the graphic novel, which I haven't written, and they animated that. There's a lot of telling grown-up stories through children-like eyes. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's where this one's going. I'm also debating as to whether it's spoken at all, voiced maybe, but not necessarily spoken. Because the beauty of Unravel 2 is that there's no speech, but it tells such a phenomenal story through the animation and sort of like a foreground background thing that's happening. So I really like the idea of that for this, and that I don't know whether there is a happy ending. I guess there's an ending where the evil is overthrown, but I imagine there's loss on the way, and that the world that they come out into maybe doesn't have a place for them anymore, but they've saved the world or their surroundings from the evil, if that makes any sense. And so it feels like a little bit. I imagine the animation to be a little bit like the never completely finished Lord of the Rings.
I sort of thought that as well. That's exactly what I was thinking. This sort of almost like. I know this sounds a bit silly, but it's almost like a child has drawn it, isn't it? Like it's very simplistic, sort of. I mean, not a really young child, but like it sort of has this really sort of, I don't know, like you'd see it in a sketchbook right, or something.
We'd call it janky now, wouldn't we? But it's not. But that's part of its charm. It's part of the fact that it holds on to this childlike innocence despite us seeing trenches. Like the pixies are in environments which are sort of echoed in the back by trenches and stuff like
that. Can I make a suggestion for your bad guys? And a monster we never want to meet when we play D&D, but Tarrasque is a French mythological creature. Right. So you could have like the Tarrasques are the sort of bad people, lion-like head, turtle-like carapace. Well, like not, but you could just scale them down, couldn't you? Bunch of little ones, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where does the evil come from? The evil comes from what, death and in war, World War II or something, or
I imagine sort of they're mimicking the soldiers, so the other soldiers will be the big bad. If we're feeling particularly obvious in World War II, they would be reflecting sort of the Nazis and the fascists, and that, and it's got that kind of Animal Farm feel as well. Did you ever see the Animal Farm animation thing? So it's got, you can see things happening that are scarily human, but aren't human, because we live in a world of pixies and maybe animals as well, because things happening to animals is always more tragic, isn't it, really? That's why Watership Down. Well, while Simon and Garfunkel sing Bright Eyes, I can't listen to that song without a tear coming to my eyes.
Animal Farm's very political, isn't it? It's
and that's what I imagine in this, is that it is quite reflective of a time.
I'm getting some Fern Gully vibes as well, like to do with deforestation and whatnot,
Yeah, it's basically, you can educate kids or give them a sense of moral that most cartoons do, and do it quite well. What did we watch recently? We were watching Raya and the Last Dragon recently. That's a great movie. And all of that, and Onward again. We've been watching that, but they've all got the feels. They all tell a story, which is ultimately something that we want to instill in our children. And so, I guess throughout that animation, that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Jojo Rabbit has that kind of feel of looking through a child's eyes. So maybe it could be like through that aspect. But then you'd have to have some. Yeah, I mean, sorry, it's animation. I mean, who would do the voiceovers for the characters?
There's quite a lot of famous French voice actors, but I think I don't know. Part of me doesn't want that. Part of me wants it to be told through the music and sort of noises, and buzzings and like yaps and almost animal noises, rather than actual voice. So you have the emotion is the only way through.
It's called something I should have remembered, but it's when they did it a lot in Disney films, so early Disney films, where they used the score to underpin the action, and it was almost like they matched the action directly to the music. But I watched a lot of, and it does have an actual technical term or a name. But I've watched, because I've been doing, I think I've already mentioned this, but I'm doing all the Disney, Ghibli, and Pixar animated films in sequence. So I'm only on Naushka now, so it must be like In the Valley of the Wind, so it must be 1986 or something. But a lot of the early Disney films, there's several of them that were made during the war. And because they dropped down to they used a lot of their animation departments for propaganda, so they didn't have a lot of their creative things to put out. And so they would put out short films that would play before newsreels. So, and during those short films, which are still in the classic catalogue, can be viewed on Disney+, a lot of them are without dialogue. A lot of them are, a little bit like Fantasia, for example. So a lot of them tell stories with visuals. And so I feel like there is that sort of symmetry that you could lean on quite heavily.
Bambi.
Yeah,
Bambi did as well.
Without, dialogue.
And even, Dumbo had like the crows talking, but Dumbo didn't. Did Dumbo ever talk? I don't think Dumbo was said "Mama."
No, I don't know. You made that up. I don't think did he say "Mama"? I don't know.
But I like the idea.
We're going to take that
we have
out.
To
by
get,
the way, and use that. We're going to use that on a soundboard.
Mama. I like the idea that the music has to be epic and full of emotion, and that the animation will tell us how we should be feeling.
Yeah. Good. I like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a good ending, though, you're saying. So how's that work for children?
I think well, there's a lot of stories that don't have a very nice... I mean, most of the original Hans Christian Andersen stories are brutal and tragic.
Yeah, that's true.
Roald Dahl, a lot of Roald Dahl stories, even if you're going to be more contemporary, right?
Yeah, I think it will have a good ending, not necessarily, but it comes at a cost. So that the evil will be driven off, but we have to see the consequences of what's happened. Like, we will have lost friends along the way. We will maybe have to say goodbye to even existing in this world anymore to protect it. So maybe the pixies have to leave so that the world of magic... Was it Flight of Dragons? Did anyone ever see a Flight of Dragons?
No.
This is a great anime. Like, you will definitely want to watch this, Sean and Ryan. I don't know about you, Nick. It might be your cup of tea, but it's about this boy that gets sucked into his board game world, slightly Dungeons and Dragons, and he falls in love with the princess. Of course he does, but at the very end, to save the world, he has to denounce it. He has to disbelieve in magic, so that the big evil sorcerer loses all his magical powers and can't defeat everyone. But in doing so, he denounces the magical world.
So it's like an allegory for growing
and then
up,
he goes
or
back to
or like
exactly that. And I feel like there's that within it. Like, to save the world, we've had to lose people on the way and denounce them. But in doing so, we've created a newer, better world that will hopefully grow into something new. But just like the end of any world war, it's a bittersweet victory, isn't it? It's like we've done something maybe wonderful for the future, but it's come at a hefty cost. So I want that, and that's a nice... I think that's a nice thing to pass on to kids. That, not war, but that war isn't necessarily good. Even though we've won,
it's a bit more realistic, and a bit more.
Yeah. Because I think conflict is, and I don't mean necessarily fighting, but conflict is often the way that you resolve. As long as it's amicable conflict, though, as well. Conflict is quite an important part of human development, and learning how to deal with conflict, and learning how to, and of course, learning about the history of conflict. So that includes war. So I think it's quite intrinsic, isn't it? I think it's important to learn about violence as a human being because it's inherent in our world. So, but obviously, how you teach that and how you lay that out there. A lot of children's TV shows, I imagine, deal with it. I don't know. I haven't been watching them, but you have.
Well, we were having this. Obviously, as parents, we have this conversation about violence and what is and isn't appropriate for our child to watch or experience. And violence is intrinsic to a lot of the stuff we watch. And I wonder. No, is there an ideal world where we don't discuss violence, where violence doesn't happen anymore, and then by not acknowledging it, but by it not being our conflict resolution, that we eke it out of our society. I mean, that's a bigger philosophical question.
Well, you would hope that, as adults, that's what anti-war films do, right? They're supposed to be anti-war films, and often they're made by sort of filmmakers who have been touched by war, often the big ones, talking about like The Pianist or Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, Schindler's List, exactly. Yeah. So they're all anti-war films, and I think they're designed to teach us, because of course conflict is inherent in human behaviour, and I think that's not something that perhaps we even need to get rid of, but that sort of level of violence is. So I think anti-war films for adults do that, don't they? They go a long way towards trying to sort of show.
And this is kind of a kid's version of anti-war. Yeah. This was what happened to the Pixies if we go through this crap.
So I know you talked about music, and sometimes I get it straight away, but other times I get the broad strokes, but sometimes I just don't know if something specific comes in. So I watched In the Earth recently, so I went back to the cinema for the first time since I saw Tenet. So it's been about a year or whatever it's been. So I went to the cinema finally, and I saw Ben Wheatley's In the Earth. And thank you. It's a big deal for me. Double vaxxed, I'm all good. And so the soundtrack's by Clint Mansell. I think he's a British composer and he does some really interesting work. And it was a really sort of harmonic, really sort of unusual resonant, because the film's about the sounds that plants make and the resonance that the earth makes and trees. Actually, Nick, thinking about it, you quite like it, some of it anyway.
There's a bit of a crossover to Avatar that.
Yeah. It's not that grand. I mean, I think it was made on like a 100th of the budget. But yeah, there is this sort of thing about like, and it's set in Britain and it's got this sort of this thing about the earth. So the soundtrack has to link to that, and it's very resonant and unusual, and so it just made me think, like, is there a specific of the score in your mind that I can sort of latch onto?
Yeah, actually, it feels quite orchestral in scope because we're dealing with grand, but again, much like the sort of the foreground background idea that we've got between the Pixies and the World War, that feels epic in its background with the strings and sort of and horns and stuff depicting the background, but in the foreground we have more folksy instruments that actively depict certain pixies. So much like Peter and the Wolf, where each character has a different voice via a different instrument. Maybe each of the pixies or each squadron has a feel about it. So maybe one's all sort of plucked stringed instruments like banjos and mandolins or something, and then another one is more sort of woodwind. Or maybe each individual pixie has a little theme that will come. So it would be. I mean, the more I'm thinking about it, the more wonderful that is in terms of like orchestration. That it would be more like a fully orchestrated symphony almost, with thematic movement through it, and we can play with minor versions of those themes, upside down versions of those themes as things happen to our protagonists.
I think it could be interesting also if you look at for example, the Second World War as a whole. I would, if I was directing this, I would suggest this to the composer. I would say, look at it as a whole, look at it from the start to the end, and try and write a symphony for me that echoes the structure of the Second World War. I don't know if that's silly.
Of the Second World War.
But that's
you're not giving a small job there, are you? Really?
But you give that to the composer and you go, I'm paying you on. I see you later. Come back with gold.
I'm paying you.
Then you turn up.
Yeah, and then they'd just come back with the same sort of 30 minutes of music they were always going to write, and go, this, and then you point out the bits that are definitely, the assassinations of it. That sounds great.
Well,
sounds great.
We've hit the deadline anyway, so we'll have to take it. But it's one of those.
No, but I think actually, because we're voiceless in this, I think it is, we get one of the greats to come in and write a French great though, and really comes in and really holds on to this. It becomes old school Disney animation, where the music and the animation are intrinsically linked. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Dan, and thanks for that, Nick and Ryan. We had 3 completely different ideas from the idea at Peloton. I personally have an idea for Peloton, but it's too good for this podcast, the podcast that I host, so I'm not going to say it.
It's too good for this,
but
the old ramshackle thing.
But
that implies every idea we've had up until this point is not as good as that.
Yeah, that's true.
No, this idea is pretty terrible. Which is secretly the reason why I'm not going to say it. But no, I mean, initially we had Nick's idea. It was a cycle race across Europe with this sort of nerds versus jocks versus stoners versus zealots. It had a sort of a cartoony edge to it. I like the idea that while they were competing for money, cheating was encouraged. It was a little bit like Wacky Races meets Cannonball Run, but on bikes, which I dug very much. And also, I haven't seen anything even remotely like that, which everyone will know I'm a fan of. Ryan played with the title as usual, so he wasn't duping, but he played with the title as usual today. Set it in this future world where people were judged not on their star signs or their blood type, but on their hair. Bouffants and quiffs and undercuts and crazy colours, natural roots. Hair has become the primary indicator of strength, virility, leadership, wealth. And within that, a young redhead goes on a Cinderella-like journey to find his ancestors and his lineage and his rightful place. in this world.
And apple cider vinegar cleans all.
And apple cider vinegar. There's nothing. It doesn't have any stocks in Aspels or whoever makes the apple cider vinegar, but I can only imagine how bad hair would smell after having apple cider vinegar in it.
I'll send you the video after this, and you'll see.
Well, you can't smell a video though, can you? So, although I'm sure it looks great.
Smell-o-vision, mate.
But
what's his name? I was going to say Neil Gaiman. That's not right. What's his name again? Noel's House Party with Smell-o-vision.
I remember Smell-o-vision. Man, we need to do a Smell-o-vision special for this, don't we? Okay, I'm writing the note Smell-o-vision down on this. Smell-o-vision. Don't know how.
You're going to forget what that means in 5 minutes' time.
Is that what we do for season 2? Instead of making a trailer for season 2, we do a Smell-o-vision type.
Don't make it harder for us, please.
All right.
Sorry, we interrupted your flow.
I'm gonna bring us back round to the final idea we had today for Peloton, which was Dan's. It was duping, but it was still a wonderfully sort of fleshed out, sensitive idea. A children's animated film where pixies must fight off a nefarious force of gnomes, but at the same time, it's more than that. It's an educational piece that sort of softly teaches children about historical conflicts like the Great Wars, a little bit like Animal Farm or Watership Down. It takes the foreground and the background to tell a connected, serious and powerful story with magic and whimsy and French style animation. So I was taken by all three ideas. I don't know if you guys can tell anymore, like if I already have a favourite. I don't know if like, do you guys know well enough okay, good, that's good. Because I always think, am I giving away the one I have already decided? Because sometimes it comes right down to the wire. Sometimes straight away I know which one connects with me. So before I pick a winner for today's episode for Peloton, I just want to say we've had a lot of travelling, haven't we? A lot of roaming, a lot of travelling, because I feel like we've all been locked inside for a year. So I don't know if anybody like at home has been able to rack up, right? Yeah, sort of just, I think people just want to express.
Sense of adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, exactly, a sense of adventure. So I've just wanted, so that was just a note that I was feeling. Ryan, I don't want to do, listen, I'm just going to do them in order. I don't like to do the what I now call the Tom Daniels, where you sort of mix it up and then like, I'm just going to go through it, right?
It's how you always used to do it, and then just stick the
I
knife
know,
in.
I can't do it anymore. I feel bad. I'm really taken by your planned ideas. I think it's really cool when you come to the table with a planned idea. It's interesting, and I think people at home will sort of relish the difference between, because there were pluses and minuses
between Ryan preparing and Dan not
yes, exactly.
I assume this is the beginning of here. This is the beginning of the acceptance speech. So I just want to say thank you, Sean, for picking me.
Going to be upset.
No.
I'm going to listen. Next
Can I just
time
point out?
Go on, Nick.
I prepared and then left it at work. So.
So you're saying you're at a handicap? You want to be?
We went halfway in between.
I'm in between. Yeah, in between.
So
because you just said you're not knocking one out, you're not doing the Tom Daniels, so if you're talking my one up, you must mean that you're about to tell me that I'm going to win, right? I'll start walking up to the podium now.
Next time I'm going to mix them up completely so nobody knows. So yes, I'll talk about the positives, and I don't think it's necessary. The adjudicators talk about the negatives, right? It's not my job to do that. I love all the ideas. I thought that it was an incredible concept. I love it. And I think you can get on board with it straight away. If you have this sort of Lemony Snicket's type thing and you just go, oh, I get it, it's hair, right? And all the different types of hair from all the different styles of every single century, they all, Ryan's doing a thing where he's soaking up the appreciation because he's about to...
I'm about to win, right? You're about to announce me as the winner with all those good things you're saying about me. Can't go wrong. I'll never die.
Shall I say however?
What?
I think that I would be remiss putting this forward without trying to figure out myself the politics of it. Like when you put this stuff out, you really want to be fair about how. Like I get the idea of the positivity of it, but I think people are still teased for having red hair. They shouldn't obviously be teased for any reason. I think you have to you can't play fast and loose with it. You've got to figure out how you're putting this thing forward sensitively, right? Does that make sense? Like, so I can't see that yet. I haven't seen the sort of how we're going to make this.
Did anyone else remember 30 seconds ago where Sean was like, I don't deal with negatives. That's what the adjudicator's for.
Listen, it's not. it's not.
It's listed the message.
It's not. I know. It's not at all a negative. Just something that, like, if someone at home is thinking, oh, I've got these ideas, maybe it's something you want to think about. You know, like, it's just for me, there's just something missing. It's not negative at all. It was just. I think there's something more sensitive here that I don't understand yet myself. So I couldn't, in good conscience, put this through yet.
Well, you've let me down, so I will die in the most ironic fashion possible, drowning myself in honey, lemon, and ginger tea.
How is that? If you drowned yourself in apple cider vinegar,
that would be
that. Say it again. Say it again,
and we'll cut.
And we'll cut out the bit where Dan says
No. It's fine. It's fine. That's how much the loss have affected me. My brain is not working in the right way. So, ooga booga, honey, lemon, ginger.
Well, I'll try. I don't think it's being negative though. So it's being positive. Actually, giving good feedback is positive. I think.
Honey, lemon, gingers.
Dan, one of the things I've got here on my note is that it's another children's idea. I wonder where you came up with that. That's.
No, what's happening? I know what's happening here. Something significant in my life.
So I guess that's all Dan is watching these days is children's things, which is great.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So I thought as a dupe idea, it's really fleshed out, and again, like in a sort of similar way, it's another sensitive topic, but I don't know if this is something that you guys feel, but I feel like you sort of had thought about the sensitive aspects of it. So as a dupe, to have done that in that length of time, I think that's pretty good. I think, to give some feedback on it, weirdly, this is a tough one. I always hate giving feedback like this, but it's almost better for a video game, I think. I can see it working as the sort of game that you play with your kid. And maybe you control the background and they control the foreground or something. Because I don't know if... I was around during one of the sort of breaks where we're allowed to do childcare. And, you know, I noticed that, like, remotely as well, children learn a lot more now on iPads. The software is good. They've made it so a child can use it. Video games are being used a lot more to sort of educate children in the same way that things like Watership Down might have done, or animated shows like that. So I don't know. Like, there's something. It could work as a film, absolutely. But the part of me that did Ryan and I did the White Box episode at Bradley, and we're hoping to spin that off. That part of me thought I would love to see it if it worked as a video game, you know. And then maybe Netflix does a 6-part animated series off the back of that, you know. So that leaves me with Nick's idea. I've made some notes that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but so first of all, I love Speed Racer, so I love that sort of idea of, and I love Wacky Races, and I love all of those. It wasn't called Catch the Pigeon, it was called something else, but I think it was called The Adventures of Dastardly and Muttley. But it was Catch the Pigeon.
But that was a tune, wasn't it? Catch the Pigeon.
Yeah, so that was the theme tune,
right?
Yep. I love that sort of stuff, and they don't do enough of it these days. This sort of vehicular combat, but with like a sort of cartoony edge.
It was called Dastardly and Muttley and their flying machines.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. So to see that on bikes, to see that with a sort of loving, sort of twist on all the different nations, like I sort of love that. It's a really good thing we need now. It's exactly the kind of thing that if you did it during the pandemic, everyone would rally around it. They'd love to see the diversity of locations. They'd love to sort of see, like you were saying, the unity sort of inherent in the film. It's silly, but there's also that aspect of unity. I would love to see, like, I know you're a big fan of the Coen brothers, Nick. We talk about them often, and I feel like they do two types of films, don't they? Like No Country for Old Men, which are they're very dry, very serious films, and then they do their comedies. And I think that, like, for some reason, I feel like if they wanted to merge both of them, you might get something like this. I don't. Maybe it's ridiculous to imagine the Coen brothers doing this sort of film, or maybe it's better with some.
I could see
interesting characters.
Yeah, exactly. And they're very dry, aren't they? And they can really get to the core of people without. They don't make fun of them, do they? Even their weird characters, they don't make fun of them. They manage to put them on screen and then sort of
someone like the dude in the Stoner bike group.
Yeah, precisely. Oh God, now part of me wants to see it as like a best of Coen Brothers with every one of their characters back in it. Right? But anyway, that's something else. I still haven't got a good idea of the tricks and traps, but I think I can imagine what you might have on a bike. And my final note on it is that I don't know if you guys agree, but I would love to see that the British team of villains were every kind of British villain there's ever been in every other kind of film. But yeah, no, I was a big fan of that idea, Nick, and just completely left field. I would never have imagined that you'd come up with something like that. That was most of the fun for me, and most of the fun of Slash Dupe. So I'm gonna have to go for that one, I think, as the winner. So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but there's something about that idea that puts it in the unique category amongst
something we've not had before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Nick, I'm going to put yours forward.
The most literal use of it as well. Sometimes the simplest answer is to try and change the title or translate it into something is just go with what it is.
No, but Nick goes like pelotons and bike racing, and I go, oh yeah. I sort of expect that, and then suddenly they're fighting each other with like different like weapons and cheating and stuff, and then I'm like, you've got me. I know this is going to win.
Well, thank you very much. I'm chuffed with that, but I wouldn't say I have the film pedigree that you guys have. But
don't need it. You just won. Yeah. Don't need film pedigree.
Let that be a sign to anyone who wants to come on the podcast. Like it's not. It's really just like everybody. And we found this, haven't we, Dan and Ryan? Also, as we've been going through different guests, like even the most unlikely of people will have the best ideas. Like it's not. I don't think you have to be limited to. I think really making films is something different, but ideas, everyone will have a good one, and I think, especially if you watch films, you're entitled to think, do you know what? I think I know what I'd love to see, or I think I know what I could do better.
And even if you don't, just it's an idea to tell a story, isn't it? And we've all got stories.
So thanks, Nick. How did you enjoy your first foray into the Slash Dupe world?
No, thanks, gents. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ryan. And thanks, Sean. No, I enjoyed it. Yeah, enjoyed it. The flow of ideas, and I remember you playing a game in France, Sean, one night. Do you remember we were inventing? I quite enjoyed that actually. I know Lawrence was like half asleep, but I was right into it, and I kind of like the creative aspect of it.
Yeah, actually. I can't remember what was the name of that, Reich.
Fiasco.
Yeah, Fiasco, Nick. Yeah. That was.
Yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like you play a few of these games here and there, and people realise, oh shit, actually, I have got the spark, I've got the bug, And like I think that's what we love about Slash Dupe, is anyone can come on board, and give us gold like you have, Nick. Pumped out that. Cycled up that hill and gave us that.
Yeah. I should have used a lot more Peloton metaphors.
No, save that for your business.
Save that.
So that's for the corporate world. Sorry. Yeah.
So
honestly, write a book about that, because they will lap that.
Yeah, we're stronger together. All these cliches.
Yeah.
Stronger when someone else is pulling. You know what I mean? Like it'll be our turn soon. It's all good. But secretly, what it means is you get one person to do all the work, and everyone sits in their slipstream, and we win as a team.
Yeah.
Ryan, where can people find us on social media, or if they want to tell us their own ideas, or if we're wrong, if we're right?
We've beaten every SEO ever. You can just Google Slash Dupe. And you can find that same thing. If you search it in 1 word, 2 words, doesn't really matter. We're going to come up. We've beaten all the SEO. So we've got a Reddit community, we've got a Facebook and Instagram, and a Twitter as well, where we post the episodes and regular fun updates. We really want you guys to be jumping on, subscribing, sharing it with your friends, and you can find Slash Dupe wherever you listen to good podcasts.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. I've had a fantastic time today with Peloton. I hope you guys did as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Nick, thank you. Dan, thank you. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
recorded in the Capo Studios 2021. What's up, danger?